Alright, cheers. Your boy Nine Spiral. Fair use, fair use. YouTube fair use. This is called fair use and it's allowed for purposes of criticism. We're going to do some criticizing about the heathen, news reporting, teaching, gotta feed the tribe, and parody which doesn't infringe of copyright. Under Title 17 USC 107. Let's go. Alright, let's rock. Let's talk about the heathen, right? But before we do that, I want to send a shout out to everybody who meditated on my well-being, right? Because we're dealing with the heathen, right? And so I knew exactly what it was. We were talking nano poisoning. Nano poisoning can come in the form of aerosol spray. Hence the small engine circling above my house those 2 nights. Or it can come in the form of liquid. Matter of fact, there is a company that specializes in making nano specific to the consumers. Now, this is all public information. You can look it up. But however, what I did was I knew exactly what it was, so I skipped protocol. And I went to the number one defense mechanism for nanotech. Right? As soon as I did, I felt something in my right side. And so immediately I said nano poisoning. Now what I did was strip the gut. You have to put probiotics back into it because it's going to strip everything. It's going to take out sodium. So you got to put that probiotics back into it. And also you have to grease, right, the gut. I did, no, I can't say that. But you know, anybody that want to know the number one defense, see me in the comment section. I will not state it on air to YouTube. But yeah, so you coat the gut, and because you have to replenish fatty cells. Now with that, I will say use omega-6s and not the 3s. The 3s are garbage. And so you're going to replenish the fatty cells. You're going to move the toxins out and replenish the fatty cells. And after my second time in the bathroom, I was good to go. Right? So yeah, this naga here now, me no surrender. Let's pop off.
This is the story of a 30-year search by U.S. intelligence agencies to perfect mind control. Some of those engaged in that search have agreed to talk about it for the first time. One said, I think every last one of us felt sorry to attempt this kind of thing. We knew we were crossing the line. The search would be endless. From brothels, an agent says, we learned a lot about human nature in the bedroom. To the mystical rites of a magical mushroom ceremony performed by an Indian shaman. To a Spanish bull ring. The bull has had electrodes implanted in the brain and is controlled by a scientist. There would be victims.
You hear that? Electrodes in the brain of animals. This is the heathen. Now look, this naga here, right? This naga here, he was in the army. And I've talked to several people actually that's been in the army and said they've had way too many shots. So what are you doing to the people? We're going to find that. This a Naga. This a strong Naga too. You see what happens when you deal with the devil? Take nothing from them.
One intelligence agency tried to peel this man's mind back to reveal its deepest secrets. I'll live through it. This man worked on some of these programs. He would write of his work, it was fun, fun, fun. This is the story of the search.
You hear that shit? Fun, fun, motherfucking fun. Okay.
For mind control.
Goddamn heathen.
ABC News Close-Up, Mission Mind Control. With ABC News correspondent Paul Altmaier.
And fair use, man. We teach the people not to deal. We teach the people not to deal with the goddamn heathen.
He said, one of our men gets beat up. He says, you have to act real fast.
Yeah, nah, nigga, nah, put the camera on his ass.
It was fun, fun, fun. This is the story of the search for mind control. ABC News Close-Up, Mission Mind Control. With ABC News correspondent Paul Altmaier.
We are not professing to tell you the complete story of these activities. We are professing to tell you the complete story that we know.
All right.
But these records that we've uncovered don't tell the story. They tell pieces of it.
This is a story that has been told in bits and pieces. This is an attempt to pull most of it together. We know we don't have the full story. We do, however, have some striking new revelations and insights. The story begins here, just off the nation's front yard, the Mall. The buildings behind me were the headquarters for the World War II Office of Strategic Services. It was here that the first halting steps toward mind control began. The shaper and molder of OSS was General Wild Bill Donovan. He said of his group's work, we made
Wild Bill Donovan. Put the camera on his ass. Y'all see him? Put the camera on the heathen. There you go right there. Right there.
We may have made mistakes, but we were not afraid to try things that were never done before. In this anything-goes atmosphere, Donovan appointed this man, Stanley Lovell, a Boston industrialist, to break new ground in many scientific and technical...
You see him? There go the heathen. Right there. Right there.
fields. Donovan called Lovell his Dr. Moriarty, after the fiendish professor in Sherlock Holmes. Lovell liked the name and posed for this Saturday Evening Post photo. He later wrote of his OSS job that it was, quote, to stimulate the PEC's bad boy beneath the surface of every American scientist and to say to him, throw all of your normal law-abiding concepts out of the window. Here's a chance to raise merry hell.
See that?
It was in this atmosphere that the search for mind control began. This bizarre man would be an active participant in that search over the next 2 decades. His name is George White, an OSS captain who had formerly been with a...
His name is George...
White.
George who?
White.
Let me clean my ears out. Man, can't hear shit early in the morning. I say who? Like Marty Marr? I say who? George who?
White.
Who?
White.
What is a white? Okay, so his name is George Withers. What it is again lately? George who?
White.
Got it.
decades. His name is George White, an OSS captain who had formerly been with the Bureau of Narcotics. In his diary, seen here publicly for the first time, White left a legacy of the darker side of American intelligence work. He received his early OSS training at the British-run...
You see that shit? The darker side. Oh, it's a motherfucking good side? Get your ass up out of here.
...school at Oshawa, Canada, the same school where Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond, was trained. White referred to the school in his diaries as the Oshawa School of Mayhem and Murder. Mike Burke, former OSS colleague of White's and now president of Madison Square Garden Center.
Very compelling fellow, mysterious fellow, almost mystical fellow. He was fascinating because you knew something about him without...
Mystical fella. So when I tell you, your government been dealing in black magic since the 30s, 1930s, 40s. Yeah, no doubt. He's a mystical fella.
Not enough about him to really get a fix on him.
Yeah, damn right. You know all about him. Come on now, let's go.
But many drugs were tested in this way. A decision was made at the highest levels of the CIA to do testing on unwitting Americans. As one CIA document says, such testing would be operationally realistic. A former CIA official who worked on these programs describes for the first time how the decision was made.
Okay.
He did not wish to be Square Garden Center.
Yeah, we're going to get that again. Let's get that again.
Compelling fellow, mysterious fellow, almost mystical fellow. He was fascinating because you knew something about him, but not enough about him to really get a fix on him. He also knew a great deal about the swifter elements of society, the gamier side of life, and he was very impressive in his technical knowledge of the underworld, so to speak.
Bam. There you go. The underworld. So what are we dealing with? Who are we dealing with? George, right? George
White.
Got it.
One of our men gets beat up. He says, you have to act real fast and teach these guys a lesson.
Charles Siragusa, a former narcotics officer and friend of White's.
He'll come around, he says, and break your kneecaps. And with that one guy... He says, and break your kneecaps. And with that one guy laughed, and George would always have little Billy with him. And this one guy saw us naked. George White turned around and whapped him across the neck with it. Then he picked up a pool stick and started beating everybody up.
He made his point.
And he made his point.
George White was not a man of understatement or subtleties. His boss at OSS, Stanley Lovell, referred to him as deadly and dedicated. In this note from White's diaries, it says, call Lovell regarding TD. TD was a rather transparent cover for Truth Drug. George White worked with the Truth Drug Committee here at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in the nation's capital. They experimented with mescaline, scopolamine, and marijuana on unwitting victims. The committee soon learned there was no easy panacea, no truth drug at this stage. But White and later colleagues would not stop trying. The goal remained the same. As this 1952 CIA memo says, the aim is controlling an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will, and even against such fundamental laws of nature as self-preservation. But it was a discovery here in Basel, Switzerland, at Sandoz Laboratories by Dr. Albert Hoffman that led the intelligence agencies of America to believe that they had found the panacea. The discovery was lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD. The film that you see is considered by many experts to be the closest illustration of the effects of a hallucinogenic.
It was one of the first times that anybody had run into a powerful drug that was different than anything else that they knew anything about.
John Gittinger, recently retired chief psychologist for the CIA. This is the first time Gittinger has been interviewed publicly.
We could disable a whole city by putting a very small amount on a water supply. After all of these years of us, those of us who are involved in looking for this secret drug, this was the only thing that began to look for the first time like it might be something like that.
So you see the joy in his face? I just want to show you the heathen, right? Because I'm here to point them out. Don't worry about me. I'm going to be okay. But I'm here to convict you, heathen. And ain't shit you can do about it. Let's go.
CIA's interest in LSD was intense. The worry was that the Russians would get hold of it. Were the Soviets into LSD?
I'm going to have to say, I'm sure.
We dodging all hijacks. Bullshit. They're on the same team. They're Confederate.
Sure they were, but if you ask me to prove it, I've never seen any direct proof of it.
There ain't no damn proof.
But at one point, intelligence information received from Switzerland said that Sandoz Laboratories was about to put 100 million doses of LSD on the open market. And it caused enough concern within the agency that the United States was prepared to buy the entire supply. However, a slight mistake had been made. The mistake is made public for the first time.
I just found out on a new CIA document that there were no such large quantities of LSD on the market.
John Marks has filed numerous Freedom of Information suits against the CIA and has unearthed much new material. He is the author of The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, a history of intelligence agency work with mind control. He is a consultant for this report.
What happened is that there was a military attaché in Switzerland, an American officer, who got milligrams and kilograms mixed up. In other words, he made a mistake of thinking 1/1000th of a gram was the same as 1,000 grams, which is a mistake of 1,000,000 times. So when the CIA got the intelligence that there were 100 million doses on the market, in fact, there were 100 doses.
The man who would oversee the CIA's research into drugs and most of the agency's behavior programs is this man, Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, a chemist. Dr. Gottlieb declined ABC News' request for an interview. In their never-ending search for the miracle weapon, CIA operatives searched here in the remote mountain areas of southern Mexico for what up to then had been considered a myth, magic mushrooms. They used this man, a part-time chemist with the CIA, to dupe this man, a vice president of a bank and an amateur mycologist or mushroom expert, to try to get to the magic mushrooms and turn them into a drug. But it would be the amateur, R. Gordon Wasson, and his
So you see what they specialize in, right? Subduing the people. They want to subdue the people, right? I also want to point out, man, immediately I increased copper intake and immediate results, man. Again, we make our own copper and intake it internally in the form of liquid, pure copper, that is. And so I immediately did that. And oh man, and I'm gonna tell you something about that copper. Also, when we first got on it, Joseph hit me and he said, "Hey man, it seems like I'm getting toned." And some weeks after, I started looking at myself in the mirror, and the copper actually tones you up. And I'm talking about, man, I got a 6-pack, man. I'm 42 years old because of that copper. So let's go, man.
Colleagues who would win the race and develop the drug psilocybin from the magic mushrooms.
We went into the Mazatec area, far from the highways, remote from Mexico City. There we found that rotten bagasse, as it's called, bagasso, covered with mushrooms. These mushrooms I didn't know, had never seen. They were the sacred mushrooms.
Lawson would also discover and record the ancient mystical rites of the mushrooms from a local shaman or magical priestess, Maria Sabina.
And we were seeing incredible sights. They would go slowly or they would go fast as I ordained.
So this is all about subduing the Naga, right? The people as well as the Naga. This is the type of shit that they're in, black magic, right? And we can prove this. Now, just like Kwame Brown asked the question, right? Stephen A., what the hell you was doing at the damn colleges, boy? In them damn high schools? We asked a similar question. What the hell y'all was doing in these damn insane asylums in the 1800s, huh? What y'all was doing to the people, man? With this fallen angel technology, huh? Playing with frequencies and shit, right? You see, I knew it was nanopoisoning. And I've been off the triangle for a minute, so maybe my saturation levels were high. But I knew exactly what to do. Strip the gut. Think about it. 70% of the immune system is in the what? The gut. So you see what I mean by you can be your own doctor. You can heal your own vessel, right? Look at the heathen. And we're going to get into building up your chi, man. And I'm bringing Shalaki, natural by law. We're going to talk about building up that biosphere, right? Increasing circulation, right? You see, this Naga Hill has sweet conversations with wisdom, right? And so I know a lot of shit. By my own subtlety, I'm able to prevail. What the hell y'all was doing in these insane asylums, huh? Subduing the people? Is this how you're able to control a vast number of people? Through sorcery, huh? You see, this shit bigger than Nino Brown. And you can't shut me up. I'm going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about the means by way y'all do this, right? Hollywood, the music industry, right? Let's go. All right, real quick. I had to get back on my I died. And so this is what you want right here. You want Lugos. Lugos, 5%. I died, right? This is the best radiation remover available. You want that good iodide, right? Potassium iodide. I used to get them in the form of capsules. I used to get them in the form of capsules. Also, what we've learned from toning, if you're taking anything that's capsules, you want to stop right now. And you want to break that capsule. And the reason why is because plastic polymer does not break down in the body. It just simply stores it. And is used for other purposes. So if you're taking anything capsule, I recommend you cease immediately. Let's go. Alright, we're going to get into this book. Weird Scenes from Laurel Canyon. What the hell was going on in Laurel Canyon? Pop off.
Okay. So now we're talking about, we're a little bit more in the modern times. When I say modern times, we're away from the days of slavery and all that. And now we're going to get more into the CIA. Well, let's check out what the CIA has been up to. Well, this is a book here. If you don't have it, I would highly encourage you to get it. The name of the book is Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon.
Damn good book. It's going to talk about how all these characters in the 60s, all these bands in the music industry was set up by the CIA. Now we're talking the likes of, I think he's going to mention the Doors, the Monkees, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin. You know, they might be out of the range for some of y'all, but I'm fans of 70s music. So let's go. Let's find out what's going on in Laurel Canyon.
It's Laurel Canyon, Covert Ops, and the Dark Heart of the Hippie Dream. And it's by David McGowan.
So you're going to hit dark, right? Underworld. Mystical. Right? We just connecting dots, right? Sorcery. Black magic. That's what they do.
And this is a very fascinating book in that it goes into a lot.
Very fascinating. And I'm going to tell you another thing, man. I've actually done the research. As one guy turned me on to how to trace these, let's say, in our generation. Listen, man, all you got to do is trace their schooling and where they're from. If they come from a federal school, then they was part of a program like this, meaning they were groomed, right? They were groomed for the PSYOP. They were groomed for Hollywood, right? They were groomed for this type of sport, right? And I've traced a lot of them back, as he's going to explain, and as the guy explains in the book, you can trace a lot of them back to the military. And boy, some of y'all favorite stars. Let's go.
Of the musicians, a lot of the musicians that came up in the 60s.
But look here, man, some of y'all favorite stars faking the funk, man. They straight up military. Controlled ops.
You name them. All the Doors, the Beatles, and the Beatles not so much in this book, but the Doors. Everyone in that era, all those like that contribute to the hippie movement. Many of those people, and they show you in this book, many of those people, those musicians, were the children of not just people who were in the military, but their parents were oftentimes in the intelligence part of the military. And they show you right in the book. It traces, and you could double check it to make sure it's legit, and it's legit. Many of these musicians, their parents were in the intelligence community.
Now I could throw some names out there now. When we're talking modern day, I can throw some names out there. Now, y'all let me know if y'all want me to throw some names. I don't give a damn.
So it's almost like a thing now with the intelligence community. It's so sick. They train their kids to be an arm or a tool for the purposes of this dark government, or whatever you want to call it, And so anyway, in this book, it also talks about how many of these artists, when they first came on the scene, they couldn't even have play. Like they were barely musicians. But they were propped up by our government to put out stuff, and I'm going to talk about it with these points in the next few slides here. And with the combination of drugs and all that kind of stuff, they were able to manipulate a generation. Well, when you start looking into this, you see that the United States are the CIA in particular and our intelligence agencies, they've always wanted to. The goal is to always to get to a place where where they can completely control people. That's what they want. That's ultimately what they want. They always want it. They still want it. And so even with social media today, that's what they want. They want to control people. And so they have a way of doing that. So let me go through my points here so I can stay on point. Okay, many artists of the hippie movement were the children of intelligence officers, as I just said. Many of these individuals could hardly play instruments at all, in the beginning anyway. Young people were provided with a steady supply of drugs from government sources. This book, and then there's other sources as well, talks about in these Woodstock was by far the biggest, but you had other like music festivals where these intelligence agencies, and this is all record, were out there handing out drugs. They were handing out LSD to the people, to the masses. They were just handing them out to people. This was all part of their experiment, which was later was part of what's called MK Ultra, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But that's what was all part of that. In this book, they also talk about the many. If you think about a lot of those artists, those musicians from back in that time period, you had people dropping like flies. They were like, and they weren't just dying of like heart attack. They were dying. It was like just crazy stuff. It was like, how in the world you end up there? So it was, in the book alleges, what they believe is some of this stuff was just straight up a ritualistic kind of killings that was going on, because one day someone will be perfectly healthy and next thing you know, they're dead, hanging upside down somewhere. So it goes through a lot of those. So this book covers a lot of those artists and different figures at that time.
All right, so y'all get the picture, right? You feel me? I want to focus on numerous mysterious deaths, right? And I want you to know right here, right now, with me today, that most of these deaths were fake, right? We're talking something that's generational, right? Now we understand what was going on with the orphan train and these newfoundlings. If I adopt 50 children, right, that means I control all 50 children and their generations afterwards. So you see what's going on here? You see how easy it is for them to control a narrative. This thing is generational. Weird scenes inside Laurel Canyon. And you wouldn't believe the people that I've traced back to the military or a federal school. Oh boy, it's a lot of them. Some of the hardest rappers. You feel me? You can trace the immediate family right back to the military, whether it be an uncle or aunt, and it's a lot of them. I just wanted to give y'all some perspective, right? And now I spiral back. Hala Hawa. Drop Nation, let's go.